The live feed kept streaming as the screen shook violently. "Help!" A desperate scream rang out, then quickly faded into heavy breathing. A shadow rushed into the frame, the glint of a knife flashing in their hand. More than 6,000 people watched, witnessing the horrifying scene. The knife swung repeatedly, the screen shook, then went dark. On March 11, 2025, Eri Sato, a 22-year-old live streamer known as AI Mogami, became the victim of a brutal attack during a live broadcast. In Tokyo, the assailant was no stranger. It was Kenichi Takano, 42, a fan who had followed and financially supported her for over a year. How did what seemed like an innocent relationship between a streamer and her audience turn into a bloody tragedy? What drove Kenichi Takano to commit such a horrifying act? Today, we're going to dive into the shocking murder case of AI Mogami, the beautiful streamer who was brutally killed live on air, sending shockwaves around the world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to catch more stories like this. Thank you so much for watching. Tokyo, March 11, 2025. Started like any other ordinary day with crowds rushing along the Yamanote train line. Amid this familiar rhythm, 22-year-old Eri Sato, known online as AI Mogami, on the livestream platform Fuwaki, was broadcasting live from Takadanobaba, sharing her love for the neighborhood. Suddenly, the peaceful scene was shattered by a terrifying scream. "Help!" A figure rushed into view, a gleaming knife in hand, stabbing repeatedly, leaving viewers frozen in horror. The police quickly arrived at the scene and arrested the suspect on the spot, a middle-aged man. He offered no resistance, merely stating coldly, "She owes me money," from an unknown girl. Eri Sato's death quickly became the center of attention, spreading rapidly across all media outlets and social networks. Eri, also known as AI Mogami, was a streamer on Fuwaki, a platform where users can interact live and send virtual gifts. It was in this virtual space that the tragedy unfolded, turning her final moments into a haunting memory for thousands of viewers. Eri Sato wasn't a social media star with millions of followers. Her livestream content was simple-centered around the everyday life of a young woman living independently in Tokyo. From her favorite foods and the neighbor's cat to the small struggles she faced. Yet, it was this genuine, unpolished honesty that drew a loyal group of viewers. They listened as Eri shared her thoughts, everyday moments, and even her tired sighs after long shifts at a restaurant and live streams that stretched into the early morning hours. Many times, Eri confided about her financial worries and simple meals of instant noodles, which only deepened the viewers' empathy and affection for this small but strong young woman. Her honesty touched the hearts of many, inspiring them to send virtual gifts that could be converted into real money. Some fans even took it a step further by helping Eri with bill payments or rent. Among them was Kenichi Takano, a name that would become all too familiar later on. But what could have driven such a gentle, well-loved girl like Eri to become the victim of a brutal attack live on air, right before thousands of viewers? To answer that question, we need to dive deeper into the virtual world that surrounded Eri, a world that operates by its own set of rules, filled with hidden dangers and unexpected traps. Though not a famous streamer, Eri Sato had built a small, close-knit community. She affectionately referred to her viewers as "my dear ones," remembered their names, and took genuine interest in their lives. This sense of closeness made many feel they held a special place in Eri's world, something far beyond the usual dynamic between streamer and viewer. Some even began to see her as a friend in need of protection, or, in more troubling cases, as someone who owed them for vague and personal reasons. What seemed like a harmless relationship gradually began to shift. A light-hearted remark Eri once made during a live stream about needing money to pay her rent accidentally sparked distorted thoughts in some viewers. To them, it wasn't just a passing comment, but a cry for help, a sign that Eri truly needed them. What started as a desire to support her slowly turned into an expectation for something in return. Eri's silence, or rather, Her inability to respond to everyone's feelings led to growing disappointment. Among the thousands of viewers, a few began to see her not just as someone they had helped, but as someone who owed them emotionally and even romantically. Unbeknownst to Eri, the seeds of tragedy were quietly taking root within the very community she cherished. Kenichi Takano, 42, a single office worker living in Tochigi Prefecture, was no random attacker. He had been part of Eri's life for quite some time through chats, words of encouragement, and even financial support. But beneath that seemingly ordinary exterior were unspoken desires that ran much deeper. At first, Takano appeared just like any other viewer in Eri's live streams. He used a familiar username, sent polite messages, checked in on her, and offered encouragement, a model fan, as longtime members of the live streaming world would call it. No harassment, no spamming, and no unreasonable demands. But over time, Eri began to sense that Takano's attention was more than just that of a non-ordinary fan. He started showing up at the restaurant where she worked part-time. From being a familiar customer, he eventually revealed that he knew her real identity. Though surprised, Eri remained polite and kept her distance. Despite her caution, Takano continued to approach her, sometimes bringing small gifts. Things began to shift when Takano, after forgetting his wallet at the restaurant, offered to pay for Eri's meal instead, although she politely declined. He insisted, saying it was his way of thanking her for the enjoyable live streams. In the end, Eri reluctantly accepted. Eri's acceptance of that first payment unintentionally opened the door to a series of financial assists from Takano, ranging from a few thousand yen to phone bills, rent, and even internet costs. Whenever Eri mentioned financial struggles during her streams, whether casually or seriously, Takano was quick to step in and offer help. Although she felt uneasy about accepting too much, Eri's shy and reserved nature made it difficult for her to firmly say no. No one knows the exact amount Takano spent on Eri, however. Police later discovered over a dozen receipts totaling around 25 million yen, accompanied by handwritten notes like support money, emergency loan, and can be paid back later. Takano never asked for interest or formal loan documents, but he meticulously recorded every expense. When asked about his relationship with Eri, Takano claimed he saw her like a little sister, yet his actions told a very different story. Takano often picked Eri up and dropped her off, waited for her at the train station, and even called her if she missed a scheduled livestream. He sent her supplements when she complained of fatigue and contacted her friends when she didn't answer his calls. Eri gradually began feeling suffocated by Takano's excessive attention. During one livestream, she hinted that someone was bothering her, though she didn't name names. Longtime viewers understood she was referring to Takano. She didn't want to completely cut ties, still staying polite by thanking him for gifts and replying to his messages, but her attitude grew increasingly cautious for someone like Takano. That cautiousness was nothing less than a harsh rejection. By January 2023, Eri stopped replying to any messages and blocked Takano from contacting her during her live streams. She also stopped mentioning him on air. This move left Takano feeling betrayed, deeply hurt, and eventually furious. He kept repeating to himself, "I gave her money, helped her, and yet she still owes me." Betrayed trust, combined with the thought of an unpaid debt, twisted Takano's sense of justice into a simmering rage. He meticulously printed out every receipt, carefully noting the dates and amounts, a constant reminder of the debt he believed Eri was responsible for repaying. On August 24, 2023, Kenichi Takano officially filed a civil lawsuit against Eri Sato in Tokyo, demanding repayment of 258 million yen he claimed she had borrowed between September and November 2022. The trial took place without Eri's presence, and Takano won the case. The court ordered Eri to repay the full amount to Takano. However, this legal victory changed nothing in reality. No one came to collect the debt on his behalf. None of Eri's belongings were seized. He didn't receive any apology or a single yen in repayment. Everything stayed the same except now Takano held a court judgment, a proof that he was right and that Eri was at fault. That judgment, meaningless to Eri, became the catalyst that pushed Takano's hatred to its peak. He couldn't understand why Eri continued live streaming, happily accepting gifts and donations as if nothing had happened. Every time he saw her smiling on Fuwaki, Takano felt deeply humiliated, believing that she was acting, deceiving, and betraying him. The affection Eri received from her audience only fueled Takano's growing resentment from a rejected man. Takano became obsessed with a distorted sense of justice, determined to personally reclaim what he believed he was owed. In January 2024, Takano went to the local police station in Tochigi to report that Ari Sato had borrowed money but did not repay it, presenting a copy of the civil court ruling. However, the police informed him that this was a civil matter beyond their authority to intervene. Takano quietly left, carrying his disappointment, and began entering a new phase of his obsession, taking justice into his own hands. From February to early March 2024, Takano was absent from Eri's live streams. Instead, he secretly monitored and gathered information about her live stream schedule, locations, and routes she frequently took. Later, the police found on Takano's computer a detailed log of Eri's broadcasts, along with screenshots capturing the places she appeared during this same period. Takano purchased a survival knife longer than 13 centimeters online, citing self-defense as the reason, an explanation that was far from convincing. Clearly, Takano was secretly preparing for his plan. On the morning of March 11, 2025, Eri excitedly announced on social media about her upcoming live stream along the Yamanote line, sharing a bright selfie. Meanwhile, at a small train station in Tochigi, Takano boarded a train, dressed discreetly in a black jacket, black baseball cap, and white mask. In his backpack, he carried 2 knives, a 13-900 survival knife and a small fruit knife. None of the passengers around paid any attention to the middle-aged man with a very ordinary appearance. They had no idea that he was on his way to Tokyo to commit a horrifying crime. At exactly 9:30 a.m., Eri started her livestream along the Yamanote line as scheduled. The number of viewers quickly surged, at times reaching over 6,000 people. The audience enthusiastically commented and interacted with Eri, creating a lively and friendly atmosphere. Every gesture, smile, and word from her brought a sense of closeness and familiarity, as if the viewers were accompanying her on the journey. Meanwhile, Takano quietly tracked Eri from a distance, keeping a safe gap and using the livestream footage to determine her exact location. He moved with caution, avoiding attention, stopping when she stopped and taking detours whenever she crossed the street. According to police reports, Takano remained completely calm throughout, his actions deliberate and carefully calculated. Around 9:50 a.m., Eri approached Takadanobaba Station, a quieter area with fewer surveillance cameras compared to the major stations. On screen, viewers saw her walk past a used bookstore and turn onto a cobblestone street. Many recognized the familiar location and excitedly commented. At 9:53 a.m., the livestream camera suddenly shook violently. Eri turned around, her face frozen in terror, and screamed, "Help me!" The phone dropped to the ground, its camera facing straight down at the pavement. A dark figure rushed in, and the sound of repeated stabbing filled the air. The image grew blurry, but the screams, the struggle, and the thuds were all too real, chilling every viewer to the bone. At first, many thought it was some kind of prank, but the horrifying truth soon became undeniable. A few seconds later, the screen went dark. The final image burned into viewers' minds was that of a man, wearing a mask and a cap, staring straight into the lens, a gleaming knife in his hand. At 9:55 a.m., the livestream was cut off completely. A nearby witness called the police to report the attack. When officers arrived at the scene, Arisato was found collapsed in a pool of blood, suffering from multiple wounds to her neck and chest. Takano was standing right next to her, holding a bag, showing no signs of trying to flee. He was immediately taken into custody without any resistance. When asked about his motive, Takano replied coldly, "She owed me." Ari was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, but did not survive due to the severe injuries. News of the incident spread rapidly, shocking the public. Thousands of people witnessed Ari's tragedy live through their phone screens. From an ordinary streamer, Ari became the victim of a murder case that shook Japan. Kenichi Takano, once known as a quiet fan, was charged with intentional homicide. Just one day later, the police searched Takano's residence in Oyama, Tochigi, and discovered crucial evidence. On his desk was a neatly organized file containing over 10 money transfer receipts to Arisato, totaling 25 million yen, accompanied by detailed notes on dates and purposes such as emergency assistance and pay later. Additionally, the police found a detailed schedule of Ari's live streams, along with numerous screenshots, capturing locations and characteristics of places she had appeared. Notably, a map of Tokyo marked with red pen indicating the Yamanote line route that Ari had previously announced further confirmed that this was a meticulously planned crime. These pieces of evidence show that Takano had carefully planned his actions. He purchased the knife in advance, monitored Ari's livestream schedule, and chose a secluded location with few surveillance cameras to carry out the attack. Although he admitted to the assault, Takano consistently denied any intention to take another person's life. He claimed that he only wanted to seek justice and carried the knife merely to intimidate. This testimony reveals that Takano had completely lost the boundary between being hurt, violence, and the distorted belief that he was the victim. The feeling of rejection, the meaningless civil judgment, and the desire to prove himself before the public drove him to commit the brutal act. Takano believed that only by taking matters into his own hands could he reclaim what he thought he rightfully deserved. According to the records, Takano had no prior criminal record, no history of mental illness, and no previous offenses. He was an ordinary man, living quietly without anything remarkable. However, beneath this calm exterior lay a fragile ego. Takano meticulously documented every time he was ignored by Ari, every amount of money he gave that went unrepaid, and used these as justification for his extreme actions. Criminology experts concluded that Takano's behavior was the result of a long-term accumulation rather than a sudden outburst. He considered himself a victim who had been exploited and believed he had the right to seek justice at any cost. The case of Arisato shocked public opinion across Japan. The murder, broadcast live on stream, turned an ordinary young woman into the victim of a horrifying tragedy, while also exposing the dark side of modern Japanese society. The name Ayamagami quickly became a trending keyword on social media, drawing countless messages of condolence and outrage. But there were also many voices defending Takano, claiming he was a victim of kindness or someone brave enough to stand up and demand justice. Analysts have warned about this troubling phenomenon, where a portion of public opinion readily excuses crimes under the guise of love betrayed. The murder of Arisato also sounded an alarm about the issue of safety for women, especially those working in the live streaming industry. Many women have shared experiences of encountering men similar to Takano, who initially appeared generous and caring, but later became threatening, stalking, and violent when their feelings were not reciprocated. The thin line between fans and online stalkers makes this risk more alarming than ever before. As of May 2025, Kenichi Takano is being held in custody awaiting trial. The Tokyo prosecutor's office has charged him with intentional murder, with aggravating factors including brutality and premeditation. Given the severity of the case, Takano may face a life sentence or even the death penalty. The passing of Arisato left a deep scar on her family, fans, and the streaming community. One streamer shared, We still have to carry on with our work, but after this incident, every time I look into the camera, I can't help but shudder and feel fear, wondering if behind that screen there might be someone like him. Throughout the investigation and detention, Takano showed no remorse or repentance. He did not apologize or confess guilt, but repeatedly insisted, "I did not intend to kill her," however. His brutal actions sounded a wake-up call for the entire society. Sometimes the killer is not a stranger, but the person who seemed closest and most familiar. The case of Eri Sato has come to a close, but the question about the thin line between normal admiration and obsessive possession remains unanswered. How can we recognize the warning signs and prevent such tragedies before it's too late? This is a challenging issue not only for the streaming community, but for society as a whole to find an answer to. Every night, countless young women continue to start their live streams, while danger still lurks somewhere out there. This case is truly a profound wake-up call about the hidden dangers in the online world, especially for live streamers where the line between a fan and an obsessed stalker is very thin. It reminds us of the importance of recognizing warning signs and taking serious steps to protect ourselves. What do you think about this case? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share this video to help spread the message of online safety to more people.